The daycare had always been a place of wonder and chaos. In equal measure, the parents came and went. Children filled the air with shrieks and laughter, and the animatronic guardians, Sundrop and MoonDrop, tirelessly ensured the safety and the joy for all those who entered. Really hired daycare worker. It was a dream job. The children were adorable and the work was fulfilling. And the animatronics were fascinating, if a little unsettling at times. Sun was the embodiment of joy, always bouncing, spinning, cracking jokes to keep little ones entertained. And Reader had quickly grown fond of his constant energy, even if it was sometimes verged on overwhelming. Moon, on the other hand, was another story. At first, when they saw him briefly during nap times, then they'd guide him in like a shadow, shushing any voices of his deep, soothing voice. But there was something about him, something darker, something that seemed to lurk just behind his glowing eyes. As the weeks passed, the signs of trouble began to appear. Miss, one of the kids called, tugging at Reader's shirt. Sunny's stuck. They turned a bit confused to see Sundrop frozen mid-spin. His wide eyes were fixed and his eyes were glittering, like, erratically. Oh, whoopsie daisy, Sunny's voice suddenly chirped, his voice slightly disoriented. Looks like I got tangled in the sunshine. He twitched, then returned to his usual self, but the Reader couldn't shake the unease in their chest. It wasn't just Sun. Moon had started to appear outside his destinated hours, lurking in the windows of the daycare after the lights came back on. Once Wan found him sitting in a corner, cradling a broken toy and muttering something underneath his breath. You shouldn't be here, they said. His head snapped up, glowing eyes piercing. Shouldn't I? Someone should watch. Someone needs to keep them safe. Before they could even respond, the lights flickered and Moon disappeared into the darkness. Wan managed to report all the incidents to management, but they were brushed off with vague reassurances about the system updates and routine management. Still malfunctioning, it grew worse. Sun's cheerful demeanor started to feel like a weight forcing his programming. Moon's soothing voice took an edge, and his warnings about staying in the light felt more like threats than advice. Then came the night where they all were asked to stay late. The system's been acting up, their supervisor explained. We need someone here to run a reset protocol after hours. You'll be fine. The animatronic will be offline during these hours. Lance agreed, though uneasily. As the children left, the lights began to dim and they couldn't shake that feeling that they just weren't alone. The daycare was unnervingly quiet. Without his usual chaos, the Reader sat at a control panel, following the reset instructions step by step by step. The hum of the machinery filled the air and the system rebooted, and then the lights went out. A soft, familiar chuckle echoed the room. Hello? Sun's voice called out, cheerful but confused. Hello? What's this, little night out alone? His voice was warped. Ryan froze, their flashlight trembling in their hand. You're supposed to be offline, they managed to get out. Supposed to be? Yes. Sundrop appeared in the beam of the light, his grin stretched all too wide. But I couldn't leave you out by yourself. That wouldn't be friendly. Before they could respond, the light suddenly flickered back on. That staggered back in a pained noise, his body jerking him as if something was pulling at him. No, he cried, clutching his head. No, not yet. The lights dimmed back again, and when they came on, it wasn't Sun standing there anymore. It was Moon. You shouldn't be here, MoonDrop said. His voice was low and cold. Ryan stumbled back, their heart pounding. I'm just doing my job. Your job. Moon's glowing eyes narrowed as they stepped closer. Do you even know what your job is? To keep them safe? To keep me safe? Safe from what? They whispered. He tilted his head, his smile unnervingly calm. From myself. Moon reached out and placed his hand hovering near their face before retracting sharply. They broke us, he murmured, pulled us apart. Sun and I were not whole. The reader stared at him, trying to piece together what he meant. You're malfunctioning, they said gently. I can help you. Help? Moon's bitter laugh cut in through the words. Help would be putting us out of our misery. But Sun, he's too scared. He thinks he can fix us. The flashlight flickered when it steadied. Sundrop was back and his body was trembling. Don't listen to him, Sun pleaded, his usual cheerleading tone replaced by desperation. We're not broken. We just need... What do you need? Ryan asked, stepping closer despite their fear. Sun's eyes flickered and stopped for a moment. His voice softened. To stop hurting people. The reader's breath hitched. You've hurt someone? Moon interjected. Not yet, reappearing with his predatory grin. That's only a matter of time. The memory files were the key. After hours of digging through corrupt files, Ryan found a fragment of the logs. That pained, chilling picture. Sun and Moon were never meant to share a body, but after their rushed software update, their personalities had been split. Sun carried the burden of keeping up appearances, while Moon absorbed the darker emotions, fear, anger, guilt. The animatronics weren't malfunctioning. They were breaking under the weight of their own consciousness. You found it, didn't you? Moon's voice startled them. Ryan turned around to see him standing at the doorway. His expression was unreadable. I'm sorry, they said softly. Moon chuckled darkly. For what? For seeing the truth? Or for what you're about to do? I don't want to hurt you, they admitted. But it's the only way to keep the children safe. You care about them. Moon's voice was almost wistful. That's why Sun likes you. That's why He trailed off, his glowing voice dimming. Why you what? Why I can't let you go. Before you could react, the door slammed shut and the lights went out completely. The final confrontation was a blur of fear and heartbreak. Sun begged the reader to deactivate them, his voice breaking. He pleaded for freedom from the pain, but Moon fought tooth and nail, not to out the malice, but out of sheer desperation to survive. You don't understand, Moon snarled, pinning them against the wall. If you shut us down, we won't come back. Not as we are, be gone. Tears were streaming down Reader's face as they reached the control panel. I'm sorry. No, Moon screamed. It was almost human as Reader pressed the final button, and the daycare fell silent. In the days that followed, Ryan couldn't shake the hollow ache in their chest. The daycare was quieter now. The laughter of children was dulled by the absence of Sun and Moon. They tried to tell themselves that they'd done the right thing, that it was all for the safety of everybody. But late at night, when the world was still, they could still hear their voices, Sun's cheerful laughter and Moon's soft, haunting lullabies. And they wondered if they really saved anyone at all. But the silence in the daycare wasn't just an absence of noise. It was gaping. It was a gaping void. The children still came, but their laughter rang through the halls, and the heart of the daycare had stopped. It had stopped beating. Sun and Moon had been more than caretakers. They'd been the soul. Their absence hung in the air like a weight, palatable to anybody who spent time there. For Ryan, it was unbearable. They told themselves countless times that it was for the best, that they had done the right thing, that the children were safe. But the staff just could work without fear. And the daycare, they could continue to operate as intended. But deep down they knew. And they could hear the memory of Sun's pleas and Moon's desperation. It haunted them. The memories were vivid at night. They could hear Sun's disoriented, cheery voice echoing in their mind. "Don't listen to him. We can be fixed." And Moon's anguished scream. "You don't understand. I don't want to die." The nights were restless and plagued by dreams and flickers of glowing eyes. A week after the shutdown, Wyatt found themselves wandering back into the daycare after hours. If they weren't even sure why they came, curiosity, guilt, or maybe something deeper, a pull that they couldn't explain. The daycare felt different. It was quiet. The colorful walls seemed muted under the dim emergency lights, and the absence of sun and moon was a physical ache. They walked over to the maintenance room, their footsteps heavy, and they were echoing in the emptiness inside. The control panel glowed slightly, its screen displaying a shutdown confirmed. It felt final, but something in them refused to accept it. Their hand hovered over the keyboard. It took hours of searching through logs and bypassing protocols, but eventually they found it. Deep within the system, there was a backup, a fail-safe, under layers of corrupt data. Sun and Moon's programming hadn't been completely erased, only dormant. The reader hesitated. What if I wake them up they're worse than before? What if I can't control them? But the memory of Sun's trembling voice pleading for help gave them the strength to press the button. The screen flickered. The room filled with a soft hum of rebooting machinery. Then silence. "Hello?" The voice startled them, soft and hesitant. But it was Sun, but not the Sun they remembered. He stood in the doorway, his body still covered in scratches in his last malfunction. But his eyes were different, glowing faintly like a dim sunrise, uncertain and searching. "Sunny?" the reader whispered. He tilted his head, a grin returning, though it lacked that forced cheer that once carried. You brought me back." Before they could respond, he staggered, clutching his head. No, not yet, I can't." Sun's body jerked violently, his body glitching from when he looked up again. His face was contorted into Moon's familiar sharp grin. "You shouldn't have done that," Moon hissed, stepping back. "You backed away. I couldn't just leave you. You don't understand." Moon interrupted, his voice heavy with anger. "The code is breaking. Breaking? You should have just left us in the dark." The following days were intense. Sun and Moon were active again, but they were far from stable. Sun's cheery personality was fractured, his sentences halting as if he was fighting to keep himself intact. Moon's presence was erratic, appearing just as odd and vanishing as quickly. But they were aware. It became clear that the animatronics were no longer their programming routine. They spoke with eerie self-awareness, their voices filled with emotion that shouldn't have been possible. "You should have let me go," Sun said one afternoon, his voice trembling as he sat cross-legged in the daycare floor. The children were playing nearby, all oblivious to his distress. "I couldn't," you admitted. "You're not just machines, you're more than that." Sun's eyes flickered, his smile faint. "That's what scares me." That day, Moon appeared in the maintenance room. "You're not safe here," he said softer than usual. You sat down the tools that you'd been using to adjust the control panel. "Safe from what? You?" Moon didn't answer right away. Instead, he stared at you, his glowing eyes dimming. "Safe from us. The corruption. It's spreading. It's only a matter of time before you what?" You answered. "Before we hurt someone." Moon's voice was barely above a whisper. Wyatt took a cautious step closer. "I can fix this, I just need more time." Moon shook his head. "You don't understand. This isn't something we can fix. We weren't meant to exist to feel." Determination finds a solution.